Hello, welcome back, Giadív agus Fáilte Arás to Hazel Jane Tarot. And today we are taking a look at something new that I have just received in the post. Now, I have the dishwasher on in the room. I hope it's not too loud because this is an unboxing. I can do this only once, so hopefully it'll work. But I'm taking advantage of a little bit of peace and quiet to finally unpack this. So, I have been trying not to buy too many new decks, but The Wisdom of the Cailleach by Jane Brideson, which is an Irish made and produced oracle deck. When I saw that mentioned in a Facebook group that it was available, I had to get it because I just, have a weakness for Irish themed decks. So let's have a look. It came in just a regular envelope and then packaged inside this, so it doesn't come in a box. But it looks like we have a bag, which is nice. And this is the guidebook. Oh, so Wisdom of the Cailleach, an oracle and journey with the old woman of Ireland. So Cailleach means witch, but it also is a kind of a goddess figure of the old woman, is also seen as the Cailleach as well. So let's see, here we have, this is the second edition then, 2021, I'm assuming. Copyright 2020, Jane Brideson. Dedicated to an Cailleach Bara, who showed me the way. So that's the goddess, the Cailleach. So we have an introduction, a little bit of story, and then the cards. So I'm not going to look at the cards yet because I don't want to spoil the surprise of actually the cards themselves, because it looks like that was in colour and everything. So we've got this nice black bag. So the Cailleach, seasonally I would maybe associate with Samhain, that sort of the winter. And there is, I think, some versions of the myths that see the Cailleach and Bridget sort of either, I can't remember exactly the version that I've read, but one replacing the other, sort of between Halloween and Amok, between Samhain and Amok, or her Bridget being transforming from the Cailleach, or Bridget being imprisoned by her until the 1st of February. I can't remember exactly the story, but there is a connection there as well. So let's have a wee look at these cards. Okay, so the long road. You can see the cards are quite large. Oh, the dishwasher's making some noise. Sorry about that. We can see the cards are quite large. And we have one keyword on each card. So crossroads. That's kind of intriguing. It looks like maybe hagstones tied together on the tree. Blackthorn. So I'm assuming the hagstone is associated with the Cailleach. I'm not, she's not a figure, as a goddess figure that I've worked with or really studied much about. The fire pit. Oh, the face in the smoke. That's really haunting. Moon. Wow. Lone thorn. It is very wintry, isn't it? The colours, the nighttime, and the sort of the bare trees. First snow. Yeah. This is gorgeous. The illustrations are really beautiful. Struggle. Balance. You can see the inside of her cloak, maybe sort of, or what's hidden underneath. It's the seam anyway. Struggle and balance. Rest. Oh, it's gorgeous. Like the earth sleeping in the winter almost. Possibilities. Beloved. I don't know enough of the stories to have a guess at who the beloved might be. But the image is very open to interpretation. First shoots. Oh, I love that. That is gorgeous. That is just beautiful. That first little snowdrop popping up above the surface, that's all we can see, but although maybe that's not a snowdrop, but that's the first thing I associate with, the first flower of the end of winter here. On the roots all around, the wrinkles on the hands are like the roots in the earth. That is amazing. Lowering sky. Oh, and a big portal dolmen. That's fab. I mean, there's so many different places I've been around the country that look just like that. And these windswept trees all blown over to the side. Sun. Like the different parts of the body. The sun, the kind of, I can't think of the chakra that is, but is the solar plexus, the heart, I guess, and sort of the root or the down below. It's greening. Okay, so we're coming into spring. Well, so maybe when you see people having left hagstones around a pond, that's sort of a sign of it being associated with the Cailleach, although that well looks more like a rock pool at the beach. First fruits. Gorgeous. Tribe. Oh, that's beautiful. The women sitting together, telling stories and laughing together. Setting sun. Mound. Oh, there's like a figure in the darkness. Wow. That's very powerful. Again, I've been to a number of different sites that look a lot like that around the country. Ancestors. Oh, that is gorgeous. And the elements represented, the earth and water and air and fire. Change. So I'm not familiar with the symbolism of the hair really either, so this is interesting. Home. So many little houses like that are not really lived in anymore, or old wallsteads, just the walls, or parts of the walls are still there. Oh, I mean, but there's still houses like that are lived in too, obviously, but that looks like a thatched cottage, which you don't see so much inhabited anymore. But familiar shape of a house, certainly. Shapes the land. Faces. The snow, and it's like her navel is like the earth, or like a tomb, or amazing. Old woman. Again, that sort of like she's knitting the landscape, and the old burial places and sacred places. Sovereignty. So these are kind of different characters. This is slightly different to the cards that came before. So these would remind me of the Weaver's Oracle, which I don't have actually, but the bright colours. Oh wow! So we had Shapes the Land, Old Woman, and then we had Sovereignty, Dear Mother, Wise Woman, and then we had Harvest Hag. These are amazing. These are just amazing. I'm feeling quite emotional looking at these actually. And finally, Veiled One, which she has the cards from this deck in her hand. Oh, the symbols, look, there's like these symbols are all like from the old carvings on, like, I mean, the most famous of which is is Brunabonja Newgrange, which if you're ever in Ireland, like, you really should go to. It's just not a short drive outside of Dublin, or not too far from Belfast either, but it's amazing, and you can walk around the exterior of Noath, which is also worth going to. It's on the same site, but Newgrange then is the one that you can go inside Brunabonja. But they're all on the same they're all on the same ticket, if you know what I mean, like at the same visitor centre where you arrive and then you get bussed to see it from there. Anyway, that's all by way of saying these symbols are the kinds of things that are carved on those old stones, and the way they're rising out of the water there. Oh, this is amazing. And then they've got the hair associated then with the harvest hag. And these old faces, like, these are such lived in, expressive faces. And like they're very yeah, they're very strong, aren't they? And then we have the veiled one. Wow, this is amazing. I'm really glad I got this. I have no idea how I'm going to work with this or what its role might be, but I'll just have a wee look at the introduction, and maybe read a little bit of that with a few of these cards for you to look at, so I can set this deck a wee bit in context for you and for myself before we say goodbye. So the introduction says, across Ireland there are tales of an old woman who shaped the landscape. She was once known by the title Sentien Berry, or Old Woman of Barra, ancient, long-standing. She was perhaps an ancestor of the people who live on that peninsula. So the Barra Peninsula is right down the very south of Ireland. Over time, that's not in the book, that was an aside. Over time, with the emergence of Christianity, she became an Cailleach Barra, or the Nun of Barra, veiled one. Okay, so that's the last card. However, as the centuries passed, her name regained its former meaning today, and Cailleach became the old woman again. And it was she who created the hills, cairns, stones and lakes which bear her name. It was the Cailleach who was responsible for the fertility of the land, the well-being of livestock, the success of the harvest. She was sovereignty, shapeshifter and wise woman, goddess of deer and cattle, guardian of wild places. In local tradition, the Cailleach was known by many personal names: Garavog, Evelyn, Miluchra, Bui, Vera, Sybil, but it is her title and Cailleach Barra that is spread across the island and beyond. It's funny, an aside, Garavog is the name of a pub in Sligo. And I never knew that that's what that word meant, so there you go. Her mythology, the ancient wisdom, the ancient sites and folklore associated with her have inspired the wisdom of the Cailleach cards. These cards may be used as an oracle, as a path of self-exploration, or a tool for connecting to the old woman. Each has several shades of meaning listed beside the card, but I hope you will develop your own understanding and interpretations of the image. May the old woman guide you. And then the creator is Jane Brideson, County Laois, Ireland, Bealtaine, 2020. So that's really interesting. I've just bought this now at Bealtaine 2022, and it's lovely just that this is the creators from County Laois, which is just in the middle of Ireland. You know, that she's a creator working with a goddess of our culture that I wasn't familiar with myself. So she tells a little story here then in the book about visiting Slieve na Cailleach, which is like the mountain of the Cailleach, and that has a cairn, and that's where she met with the Cailleach and she started working with her. So I can't wait to read a bit more. So just to give you a bit of meaning on one of these cards, let's see what it says in the guidebook. So first snow, a pause, challenge, plans, an opportunity to pause and assess your strength and emotional reserves, the beginning of a challenging period, plan for your future, have you enough to sustain you, a time of self-restraint and distance from others. So that's interesting. This definitely does seem like a deck that's dealing with a lot of emotions around wintering, And then, okay, so that's the 24 cards, and then the Circle of Old Women are those last 7, I think it was, cards. So it says here in the guidebook, so here are the symbols, so that's what's on the back of the cards as well. So 6, the Cailleach of Irish myth, folklore and literature embodies certain characteristics and performs various activities which are represented by the Circle of Old Women. This was my theory behind the images, but whilst I was painting their portraits, I felt a recognition and understanding of what I'd felt within the mind of Slieve na Cailleach. The old women came alive, offering symbols, gifts, and quietly whispering their qualities and significance to our lives. Okay, so these are Circle of Old Women kind of aspects, I guess, of the Cailleach as she has appeared, or been imagined by or appeared to this creator. And then she has some advice on working with the cards, and yeah, that is a really interesting deck. So it's a small deck in terms of the number of cards, not small in terms of the size of the cards, as you can see. But the art is really beautiful. And I'm really touched by the fact that this is this creator's personal journey with this figure, the Cailleach, the Old Woman of Ireland. The Cailleach, I mean, the fact that in the Irish language the word for witch is also Cailleach is interesting. Like the sort of, perhaps demonization is too Christian a word maybe, but maybe it is the Christian demonization as the Christianization of Ireland, like the demonization of the old woman as the witch is interesting, although witches were not excessively persecuted in Irish history, and that's a whole other conversation, which is a very interesting one. But there were nothing like the number of witch persecutions in Ireland that you find in the likes of Scotland and England, for example, and elsewhere in Europe. Ireland didn't really have that so much. But this first card, I think, like this idea of entering a journey from the lush green summer into the fall or autumn into the winter, and journeying into the winter with the Cailleach, that is, as a first card in the deck, really a very inviting image. They're not numbered. I think one of the things, just as a practical oracle deck thing, one of the things that does bother me sometimes is the cards aren't numbered, so it's harder to find the card in the guidebook. But because this is such a small deck, I don't think that's going to be an issue. Like, it's quick to flick through that little guidebook to find the card. These are definitely, I don't think, cards that I would be doing a weekly card pull or a daily card pull from for certain. These are cards for a much broader period of contemplation, like maybe a week or a month even. And this sort of the art is so evocative, and it is coming across beautifully on camera. Like, it is the depth and the real like, these are beautiful pictures. Like, I have no problem displaying these in my home over, like, say if I had one for a month that I was working with, like, I would have no problem having that sitting up blue tack to the wall or on a little easel or something to just look at for the month and contemplate or meditate with or whatever, because the art is just so gorgeous. So yes, maybe this is the first step on a journey now to get this now in May. That is, like, we're right in that beautiful lush greening period in Ireland. Like, the apple blossoms and cherry blossoms are starting to shed their petals like snow along some streets. Streets that were like parks where it was just sticks in the trees, and then it was buds, and now it's just a full canopy of leaves. All of a sudden feels, even though I've been watching the transition from the 1st of February and the gradual growth, like, we're right in this beautiful bloom now in May. And to even think about the winter is like, oh, because I mean, I am a summer baby and I love the summer. And I don't like the winter very much, and I don't like the darkness. And this deck, with all of its darkness, is very interesting. And I've also, I'm a woman in my early 40s, but I have friends who are a little older, sort of maybe in their mid 40s, and this sort of conversation around aging is starting to creep in to the conversations with my peers, where before it was maybe my mother. Now it's my own peers are starting to talk about, entering the menopause or having perimenopausal symptoms, or, different signs of aging. And, that conversation about aging is happening, and that the Cailleach as the old woman is a very interesting image to contemplate. Somebody said to me recently, she saw a photograph of herself. She said, "I look old." And, what do we mean by that? And yeah, I just think it's interesting that this has arrived in my hands at this time. So anyway, I cannot believe I've been talking for 20 minutes. If you've stuck with me all this time, thank you. And I'll be really interested to know what you found interesting in this video. I will put the link below to Jane Brideson's website where I bought the stack. And the reason I was able to buy it this time was because I had sold a couple of decks, and I used the money from that was sitting in my PayPal account, burning a hole in my PayPal account, to buy this. So anyway, so that the sale of what have I sold, the Dark Mansion Tarot or the Shimmering Veil, one of those has paid for me to have this. So I think that's been fair enough. All right, thank you for watching. Agus Slán. Slán is goodbye in Irish. It also means like health. So like wishing health to you. Slán that is like health to you. So Slán, until next time.